Hello and welcome back to Pod English for Everyone. I'm John, and today we are not just learning English, we are entering a story. A story about time, isolation, knowledge, and something much deeper, something that most people never truly question: money and freedom. Take a moment and really think about this. If someone offered you $2 million but asked you to spend 15 years completely alone, with no people, no conversations, no voice, and no human connection, would you accept? Most people answer quickly and say yes. But today, I want you to slow down, because this story is not really about money. It is about what happens when everything is taken away from you, except your mind. So let's begin. Many years ago, on a quiet evening, a group of people sat together around a large table during a dinner party. It was not a loud or festive evening, but rather something more intellectual. People were talking, thinking, and debating ideas. Among them were journalists, professors, philosophers, a young lawyer, and a very wealthy banker. This banker was young, successful, confident, and perhaps a little too confident. The kind of person who believes he understands life completely. That night, they were discussing something serious: crime and punishment, and more specifically, the death penalty. The death penalty means that the government decides to end someone's life as a form of punishment. Some people believe it is necessary, while others believe it is cruel. Around the table, opinions were divided. One man said it was immoral, meaning something that is wrong, unacceptable, and not human. Another said that no one has the right to take a human life. Then the banker spoke. His tone was calm, confident, and almost cold. He said that he believed the death penalty was more humane than life in prison. Humane means kind and compassionate, and this sentence immediately changed the atmosphere, because now everyone was listening carefully. The banker continued by saying that death is quick, just a moment of pain followed by nothing, while prison is slow suffering. He asked them to imagine years spent alone in a small space with nothing but their thoughts. At that moment, something important happened. The young lawyer, who had been silent until then, finally spoke. His voice was calm but strong. He said that he disagreed and that he believed life is always better than death. Even in prison, even in suffering, even in loneliness, life still gives you something. Time to think, to learn, to change, and most importantly, hope. Hope is powerful because it means possibility. As long as you are alive, something can still happen. The banker laughed, not because it was funny, but because he did not believe him. He asked the lawyer if he truly thought he could live alone for years, without people, without conversation, without life, and said that this would be nothing less than torture. The lawyer looked at him steadily and replied that he could do it. At that moment, silence filled the room, because this was no longer just a discussion. It was becoming something else, a challenge. Then the banker made an impulsive and dangerous decision. He proposed a bet. He said that he would give the lawyer $2 million if he could live completely alone for 15 years. Now take a second and feel the weight of that moment. 15 years is not 1 month or 1 year. There would be no phone, no internet, no voice, and no human connection, only himself. After thinking for a moment, the lawyer accepted. And just like that, everything began. Because some decisions feel small in the moment, but they change everything over time. At midnight on November 14th, the experiment began. The lawyer entered a small house located in the banker's garden. Inside, there was a bed, a table, a chair, a lamp, bookshelves, and complete silence. The windows were covered, and he could not see outside. The door was locked from the outside. From that moment, he was completely alone. His only connection to the outside world was a small window through which he could receive food, books, wine, or anything he requested, but never a voice, never a conversation, and never human presence. There was one rule that changed everything. If he left even 5 minutes before the end, he would receive nothing. But if he stayed for the full 15 years, he would win $2 million. At that moment, he believed it was worth it, because 15 years felt like a sacrifice for a future reward. This is how most people think, short-term pain for long-term gain. But what happens when time itself starts to change you? The first year was the hardest, because silence is not empty, it is heavy. When you are used to noise, voices, movement, and life, silence becomes uncomfortable and even frightening. He walked back and forth constantly, unable to relax. He played the piano just to hear something, because music became his escape. Then came the books. At first, he chose simple books, stories of romance and adventure, because stories create worlds. And when you're alone, your imagination becomes your reality. Through books, he traveled, met people, and experienced life without ever leaving the room. Books became his companions and his only connection to humanity. But slowly, quietly, and deeply, something began to change. And this is where the real story truly begins. While the lawyer is transforming inside that small room, life continues outside, and years pass. The banker is no longer the same man he used to be. 15 years ago, he was powerful, rich, confident, almost arrogant, convinced that money could solve everything, that wealth meant control, and that success was permanent. But time changes everything. Bad investments, poor decisions, and repeated risks slowly begin to destroy what he had built. At first, the losses are small. Just a mistake here, a setback there. Nothing serious, nothing alarming. But over time, those small losses grow into something much bigger and far more dangerous. He is no longer in control. He feels pressure, stress, and fear. Because money, when you have it, makes you feel powerful. But when you start losing it, it becomes a constant source of anxiety. And now there is something else he can no longer ignore: the bet. That bet he made so easily, so confidently, and so carelessly has now become a serious problem. Because if the lawyer wins, he will have to pay $2 million, and that will destroy him completely. Everything he built, everything he owns, everything he believes he is, could disappear. And suddenly, a question begins to form in his mind. A dangerous question. What if he does not win? What if he does not survive? This is the moment where everything starts to change. Because thoughts become ideas, ideas become possibilities, and possibilities can become actions. At first, he tries to ignore it. He tells himself that he is not that kind of person, that he would never do something like that. But the thought does not disappear. It stays quiet but present, and slowly it begins to grow. Fear feeds dark ideas, and desperation removes limits. And now, he is desperate. He realizes that in just a few months, the 15 years will be over, and the lawyer will win, unless something happens. One night, he cannot sleep. He walks around his house again and again, unable to stop his thoughts. His mind is racing, fast, loud, and unstable. Then he stops. Because the idea is no longer just a thought, it has become a decision. If the lawyer dies, he does not have to pay. Take a moment to feel that shift, because this is the moment where a person crosses a line between thinking and acting, between fear and choice, between who you are and who you become. He opens a safe. Inside, there are documents, money, and a key. The key to the small house, the key to the lawyer. His hand shakes slightly, not because he is unsure, but because he understands exactly what this means. This is not just a solution, it is a point of no return. Once you make a decision like this, you cannot go back. You cannot undo it, and you cannot forget it. And yet, he takes the key. He leaves his house and steps into the night. The air is cold, the world is quiet, and everything feels heavier than usual. He walks slowly through the garden, step by step, each movement bringing him closer to a decision that will define who he truly is. This is something important, because in life you will have moments like this. Moments where no one is watching. Moments where you choose who you want to be. Not with words, but with actions. And those moments define everything. He reaches the small house. It looks exactly the same, unchanged, silent. But everything has changed. He stands in front of the door and hesitates for a brief moment, pausing just long enough to feel the weight of what he is about to do, but not for long. Because fear is stronger than hesitation. He slowly inserts the key into the lock and turns it carefully. The sound of the lock clicking feels louder than it should. But inside there is nothing. No movement, no reaction, no sound. He opens the door slowly and steps inside. And what he sees changes everything. The door opens slowly and quietly, and the air inside immediately feels different, heavier, still, almost frozen in time. The banker steps inside carefully and looks around. Nothing seems to have changed. The same table is there, the same chair, the same silence that has filled the room for years. Then he sees him. The lawyer is sitting at the table, completely motionless. At first, the banker thinks he is asleep, but something feels wrong, deeply wrong, because the man in front of him does not look like the same person at all. He is extremely thin, his face is pale, his hair is longer, and his body looks weak and fragile, as if time itself has slowly taken everything from him. 15 years of isolation have left a deep mark. The banker steps closer, slowly, and now his heart is beating faster. Not because he is afraid of being caught, but because of something else, something unexpected, unease. He looks at the lawyer's face and then he notices something on the table. A piece of paper, a letter. He hesitates for a brief moment, but then he takes it and begins to read. From that moment, everything changes. The letter begins calmly, with clear and controlled words, written by someone who has spent years thinking deeply. The lawyer explains that during those 15 years, he truly lived, not physically, but mentally, through books, knowledge, and imagination. He writes that he has experienced everything: love, war, philosophy, science, and religion. He describes how he climbed mountains through stories, traveled the world without moving, and saw more life inside that room than most people ever experience outside. Then his words become stronger, more direct, more intense. He explains that everything people chase is meaningless. Money, fame, pleasure, and status are all temporary, fragile illusions. That word matters, illusions, because an illusion is something that looks real but is not, something you believe in until you finally see the truth. He continues by saying that he despises everything that people consider valuable, not out of anger, but because he has seen beyond it through knowledge, isolation, and time. He has understood something that most people never question, that life, as most people live it, is built on distractions. Then comes the moment that changes everything. The banker continues reading, his hands slightly shaking, not from fear anymore, but from realization. The lawyer writes that he refuses the money. Take a moment to feel that. 15 years, and yet he chooses nothing. But he continues, explaining that to prove he no longer values it, he will leave 5 minutes before the end of the bet. 5 minutes after 15 years, and he chooses to lose on purpose. At that moment, everything becomes clear. This was never about money, at least not anymore. The banker slowly lowers the letter, and for the first time in 15 years, he understands. The lawyer did not lose. He won. Not money, not status, not power, but something far greater: freedom. Real freedom. Freedom from desire, from illusion, and from needing what the world tells you to want. In that moment, the banker realizes something deeply uncomfortable. He lost. He spent 15 years chasing money, protecting it, and fearing its loss, while the lawyer was letting go of everything and becoming free. Suddenly, the banker feels something heavy, not fear, not stress, but shame. He understands that he was ready to kill a man for money, while that same man gave it up without hesitation, without regret, and without fear. That contrast is powerful because it reveals something deeply true. What you chase defines you, and what you're able to let go of is what truly frees you. The banker steps closer and looks at the lawyer again, but this time he sees something different. He does not see weakness or fragility anymore. but peace. A quiet, deep, unshakable peace. Without thinking, he bends down and gently kisses the lawyer's head, not as a sign of victory, but as a sign of respect. Respect for someone who understood something he never did. Then he leaves, quietly, without saying a word. The next morning, the guards report that the lawyer is gone. He left exactly as he promised, 5 minutes before the end, with no money, no reward, and no explanation. Just gone. And the banker keeps the letter, locked away and hidden, because it reminds him of something he can never forget. That everything he once believed was important might not be. So now, the story is over, but the real question begins here. Because this story is not really about the banker, and it is not really about the lawyer either. It is about you. Yes, you. Because at some point in your life, you will face a similar question. Not the exact same situation, not the same bet, but the same idea underneath it all. What are you chasing? And more importantly, why are you chasing it? Most people never stop long enough to ask themselves that question. They simply follow a path that seems normal. They try to make money, build success, gain recognition, achieve more, and then more again. On the surface, it looks right. It looks logical. It looks normal. But normal does not always mean correct. And this is where the story becomes uncomfortable, because if you look closely, you may realize that many people are not really chasing what they want. They are chasing what they were taught to want: money, status, validation, approval. But here is the problem. If you never question those things, then you do not control them. And if you do not control them, they control you. That is exactly what happened to the banker. He did not simply choose money as a tool. He became dependent on it. His identity, his decisions, his fear, and even his sense of self became tied to it. And when he started losing it, he began losing himself as well. The lawyer, however, moved in the opposite direction. He lost everything on purpose. He gave up comfort, connection, freedom, and everything familiar. And in that loss, he found something else. He found clarity. Because when everything is removed, you begin to see what remains. And what remains is often the truth. Not the comfortable truth, but the real one. And that truth changed him completely. He no longer needed money. He no longer needed validation. He no longer needed anything external in order to feel complete. That is rare, very rare. Most people build their happiness on external things, on things that can disappear, things that can change, things that are unstable by nature. And when your happiness depends on unstable things, your life becomes fragile. It becomes a life based on conditions. If I have this, then I am happy. If I lose this, then I am not. But what if happiness is not something you chase? What if it is something you build internally through understanding, awareness, and detachment? Detachment does not mean that you stop caring. It simply means that you are no longer controlled. And this is where the story becomes truly powerful. The lawyer did not reject money because money is evil or useless. He rejected it because he no longer needed it. And that changes everything. Because there is a major difference between not having something and not needing it. One is limitation, the other is freedom. And freedom is not always what people imagine it to be. It is not just doing whatever you want. It is not just having endless options. Real freedom is internal. It is the ability not to depend, not to be controlled, and not to be driven by fear or desire. That is why the lawyer won. Not in the way people expected, but in a deeper and far more meaningful way. A way that most people never reach. And now we come back to the same question from the beginning. What is more important, money or freedom? But now you understand that the real answer is not about choosing one and rejecting the other. It is about your relationship with both. Money can be useful. It can create opportunities, solve problems, and make life easier. But if it becomes your identity, your security, or your value, then it stops being a tool and becomes a prison. Freedom, on the other hand, is not about rejecting everything. It is about not becoming dependent. And this is something you can start building today in small ways through your thinking, your habits, and your decisions. Because freedom is not a single moment. It is a process, and it is built daily. Maybe you do not need 15 years alone to understand that. Maybe you simply need to start asking yourself better questions. What do I really want? Why do I want it? And what happens if I do not get it? Those questions can change everything. And now, before you go, I want to ask you something, not just to think about, but to answer honestly. In the comments, tell me this. If you had the choice, would you take the bet? 15 years alone for $2 million. Would you do it? And even more importantly, what do you think you would become after those 15 years? Because your answer says a lot about you. And if you enjoyed this kind of story, this kind of learning, and this kind of experience, do not forget to subscribe. Because here, we do not just learn English. We learn how to think, how to express ourselves, and how to understand more deeply. Step by step, slowly, but in a real way, I will see you in the next episode. Take your time and keep going, because real progress is not fast. It is consistent, and it is yours.
Hey, thanks for being here.
If you like this episode, drop a comment and tell us what you want next.
New episodes every week. Don't miss the next one.
Hit subscribe, turn on notification.
And keep improving your English. See you next time.